What's up, YouTube? Joe Catchpollia again. Today I'm gonna be doing a little bit of due diligence on one of these fractional real estate deals that I mentioned last time. It's a little uh, Airbnb. It's actually a multifamily being run as several Airbnb units in Albany, New York. It just is one that happened to catch my eye. I think it's a little bit interesting for a number of different reasons. I finally got some of my money onto Lofty. I think it is. It was a long wait. I don't know, just doing an ACH. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward process, but it was just funny how long I had to wait. I put some. I think I mentioned it. Might have mentioned this on the last video, but I put some on another platform, and it took a day. And on this one, at this the same time, it took a full week for it to show up on there. I don't love that. I kind of understand the explanation why, because when it's going into here, it's actually been converted into some sort of cryptocurrency. I think it's called USDC, something like that. But it is it's supposed to approximate the dollar, but isn't exactly a dollar. So I just put a little bit on here so I could look and try to find and buy a piece of my first property. Other than the one that I mentioned before, where I think I already showed you, I got bought a piece of this one with the $50 free that I got, and like I said, did very little research. Probably wasted it, although it seems like it's going to be perfectly fine. Um, but it's not something that not the way I'd like to go about doing this. But so for today, I'm going to look at this property. I think it's really interesting. You can see tokens are, $70 at this point. They're not the $50 that they were when they started. So anybody who bought this when it was first put out, presumably it's done pretty well. I actually don't know how far back it's happened. I really haven't done much due diligence on this at all yet. I was just so far just surfing through these, opening them up, looking at a few things. But I figured I'm going to spend a little bit of time today. I've only got about 30 minutes. But I figured I'd spend I figured I'd record it and let you see, some of the things that I look at, and that I'm going to look at when I'm investing in properties like this. But it's pretty similar to how, I've looked at properties my whole career, working with investment properties. And sorry, I lost my cursor for a second. My computer's been a little weird. Um, but so, this I'm just going to start at the very top, right? Like, uh, looked at the address. One of the first things that I've always done when I've invested in real estate is wanting to know a little bit about the market. Um, I think I mentioned last time that in general, I'm going to try to avoid markets that have the a state income tax, and I know New York does. Um, I think I don't mind doing it if I think I'm going to buy quite a few properties in one place, and I actually, or at least put a decent amount of money there, so that if I have to do a state income tax return, it's at least worth it from whatever I've earned in that state. Uh, we'll see if that's true or not as time goes on. But in any case, I'm not letting that stop me from looking further into this one in New York. But so the first thing I like to Google the market, right, and actually just do it without the zip code, and usually you'll get the Wikipedia entry right away. Um, one of the very first things that I want to see is what the population trends are in that market. And did I miss them, or is this too small of a market to have them? Usually they put it down the side. There we go. Okay, historical population. Yeah, you can see for a while it was shrinking, and this is true of a lot of markets in this general area. Although it grew from 2000 to 2010, grew from 2010 to 2020. And it looks like it's grown further. Um, I'm not really sure what's causing that, and that's one of the things. Sometimes, especially if I was going to buy a whole property in this market, I spend a lot more time in this part of the research. When I chose to move to San Antonio and start buying stuff here, I spent probably a stupid amount of time researching the market, the economy, what drives it, And it led me to here, and it's been a good decision real estate wise, and probably will be for a long time. But it's not going to stop me from checking out a couple other markets. I like that this is growing. It's a very small market, right? It's only 100,000 people. It's not. It's big enough that you won't have lender problems if you where you do in some smaller markets, but you won't hear it anyway because it's not a commercial property. Um, probably at some point I'll sit here and read this whole thing on my own. Obviously, I'm not going to do that while you're watching. I don't really look too much into demographics, but the direction of population, as if it's growing, that's to me one of the most important things, especially in markets where they're a little bit more supply constrained. Like I'm assuming Albany probably is. It's not like Texas here where we can just keep building stuff and it's just a matter of logistics to get more housing. A lot of times they run into bigger impediments there than we will. Um, but anyway, I'll definitely take some time read through all of this. But the first hurdle, which is here, this is one of the real hard cutoffs. If this was a shrinking population, I'd virtually never buy in this market. You'd have to have just an incredible yield. That's one of the things that attracted me to this. It does have strong yield. Um, One of the things that I'm a little bit worried about is that because it has such high yield and it's because it's an operating business, it's a short-term rental, that it's possible that these tokens are overpriced relative to the price of the real estate. And, that's going to be an important thing to figure out. Now, I'm actually going to Google the address itself, see if it pops up on Zillow and see what Zillow thinks it's worth. Um, I don't always trust Zillow. But yeah, see, it thinks it's $330,000. And now if we look at the tokens, let's see, they're trading at $70. If you do this view order book, you can see um, all the outstanding tokens, market cap 372,000. Um, this is the total tokens outstanding. It even is tokens that are represent the debt amount, as far as I understand. That's something I've noticed some of the other YouTubers have talked about, and I might do a video about it because I think there's some misunderstanding about how this works. But okay, so it's 372 is the market cap of the property. 330 is what Zillow thinks it is. It's kind of interesting. So definitely there's a little bit of a premium being paid, at least as far as Zillow is concerned. Like I said, Zillow is not always perfect. I do want to see, one of the things I'm going to look up is these offering details. Okay, that's just a link to his um, Airbnb page. That's interesting that's how they. So that's the guy who's actually running the project. Tokens, represent ownership, rules ownership. Okay, so I want to see when this happened. Let's get rid of this. Okay, so this was January, recording date January of this year. I haven't done it. I used to actually do a decent amount of transactions in New York, but I haven't in a while. Yeah, see, there's not a big delay in their recording from their execution date. So December of last year, um, is when that was put into there. This is sort of interesting, right? Like if we look at this, uh, all of Lofty's initial offer $50 per token, as far as I understand. And so in less than a year, these have gone from $50 to $70. That's a huge amount of appreciation. So I mean, it's possible that they were just really underpriced at 50. Um, it's also possible a lot of people are just chasing this yield and are just paying too much for it. So that's got me a little bit worried. We have a little bit of a premium to what um, Zillow says. We have a big premium to what they went in a year ago. That's why I wanted to see the date of that. Um, this is a superhost profile. Let's see what else we've got here. It's a historical property. Um, there's good and bad things about that. It makes it so you give up a lot of control, especially about the external characteristics of your property. But as an Airbnb, I actually think that this is probably helping it out. Um, he's got a lot of pictures in here, and you can see, like, I can imagine this doing well as an Airbnb. One of the things um, that I'm going to do, I sell a lot of Airbnbs to investors here in San Antonio, so I spend a lot of time um, looking at these, helping people with them, and really sort of understanding. Like, say, I don't love this, and I don't know that market, right? Like, it's very competitive here. You have to have a really nice property. Um, I think this one would struggle a little bit, to be honest. But it's in an area where you have a lot more older properties. Uh, this to me is shocking. But again, maybe where they are. I mean, obviously he's doing pretty well because they are paying a pretty high yield. Um, I guess having 4 Airbnb units for such a cheap price probably has a lot to do with it. Um, let's see. But so yeah, looking at those pictures, it's definitely not similar to the types of properties that I'm used to seeing here on Airbnb. Um, let's go back to his profile. He's been a host for 6 years. He's got 2,100 reviews, 4.74. This is actually really good. So he's a great host. Um, this 4.74. This is really tough to accomplish across 2,100 views. Uh, Especially when he's doing the types of units that he is, where these are basically he's not trying to put a really premium product out. He's doing something that's an affordable to rent, or to stay at. uh Looking at those pictures, yeah, I'm actually that's really surprising. So one of the risks of this, right, is you're getting a piece of ownership in the property, and he has to keep a piece of that property. You'd imagine that he'd continue to operate it, but um, one of the risks that come along with buying this token would be, okay, something happens to him, he's incapacitated or passes away, he can't manage the Airbnb anymore. Where does that leave you? It leaves you with a property that's maybe worth $40,000 less than the outstanding tokens. And so that's one of the things I'd be a little bit worried about there. Um, while we're thinking about that, I'm going to show you a tool that I use all the time. It's called AirDNA. It's a third party that looks at. And I had already searched for this property on here because I wanted to save some time. But so this is a third party data provider. It pulls stuff from Airbnb and VRBO. Let me go back and just show you what I'm looking. So I put this address in, but then also it defaulted as 5 bedrooms or something, and it's kind of accurate, but it's actually a studio unit, a 2 bedroom 1 bath, another 2 bedroom 1 bath, and a 1 bedroom 1 bath. And so I want to just see what AirDNA thinks top line revenue should be for this. And for the 1 bedroom 1 bath, assuming 2 guests, 23,000 annual top line revenue seems pretty good. To do a 2 bedroom, I bet we could put 4 guests in there max. Uh, so you've got, okay, doesn't really change it, right? So the 2 bedroom and the 1 bedroom is pretty similar. So there's 2 of these. So and one of the ones, and then one studio. Say just 2 guests for that. And we're like, okay, 21,000. So altogether, talking around $90,000 in top line revenue. Um, Yeah, I mean that's really strong for a purchase price of 370,000 for a property. That that's a really good yield. It looks like, and actually, this is one of the reasons too. When you pull the comps like this, um, pull these up, and this is a paid account. You'd get this information that I just showed you for free. I have a nationwide paid account for this for my day job. But yeah, this looks like it's one of his. And so, is this his? Yeah, I think this is it. And so you can see the calendars and the days. You can also see what it says the potential revenue. It hasn't run for a full year yet, but the actual revenue, and sometimes these numbers are a little off for some reason. One of the things to keep in mind is all of these revenue numbers include everything that comes into the property. And so cleaning fees are included in that, even though there's an expense that's associated with it. Let me see if this is. Um, so, this matches up pretty good with what it was projecting. Um, let's see if we switch it to the two bedroom, if it brings up those other comps or his other units. That one doesn't look like it. I'm not sure we are going to see his other ones, but actually, this maybe. Let's see. This is one of my favorite tools if I'm looking at an Airbnb. Yeah, I actually don't think this is his. I'm not positive. So, but overall, it seems like it makes a lot of sense where the yield is coming from. One of the things, usually I'm looking at top line revenue, and here in San Antonio, I want to see that number equal to about 20% of the purchase price. Um, Here, at a 370 purchase price, and when we added them all up, it was about 90. That's really strong, right? 90,000 at 370. Yeah, 24%. I mean, that's really strong. I say we're shooting for 20, but really, like if you get past 17 or 18, you're usually doing pretty well. Um, it does seem like it's pretty labor intensive to do 4 units for such a small dollar amount per unit. Um, let's look at what his property management agreement looks like. He tells you a little bit about him. You can look at his Super Pros profile. We clicked on that. Let's look at this property management agreement because I want to know how much are we actually paying him to continue to manage it? Because that's what it looks like is happening. Automatically renews, 5-year terms. Management fee 25% of net rent collected. That's a really, that's a pretty standard fee. Sometimes you'll see up to 30%. So now, we've got the 90,000, take out 25%. Uh, it starts to make some sense. Uh, he's talking about, because he also has an ownership stake, what percent he has to pay for it. Obviously, again, if you're gonna make a purchase in this, you want to spend some time reading the whole thing. Going through, showing you the steps that I'm taking. I am going to spend some additional time after we do this video, and then next time, is this something I decided to buy or not? Um, so I just clicked on this financials tab. This is where it's showing okay, total investment, underlying asset price. It says 350. Closing costs, upfront DAO fees 550. That makes me wonder if I misunderstood something here. So is that at 50? So are they actually 7455 times 50? Oh, that's what gets you to that 372. So if we're actually multiplying it by today's, okay. So I'm leading you astray already. So times 70. Okay. So at the 70, we're talking about a $520,000 purchase price. Okay. So this is going to be a definite no for me. I don't care about how good this yield is. Um, I was thinking that we were just moving up from uh yeah, that's a much bigger jump than I realized. So I think these tokens right now are you're paying a huge premium, and it's because it's a decent yield. But if you went and had to liquidate, unless there's some reason to believe this property has gone up in value $150,000, um, you'd have a real issue with that. Zillow doesn't think so. I'm going to look at a couple other sites that let's see, that will usually give you a price. Where is Homes? Usually Homes.com I like. So let's. Oh, is this? Am I going to need to sign in this? Let's see. I don't think I have to sign in to show you this. I don't know. Should we see that? Okay, yeah. I don't. No, I don't want you to do my current location. I want you to do this address. No. There we go. Okay. All right. See, Homes.com valuations are usually fairly decent, and now this is saying 300. I want to make sure I'm not missing something, and it's not trying to see 2.5 with two spacious apartments, finished attic and finished basement. So the attic and basement must be those other two units. The hmm. So see, this is why it's really dangerous to just come in here and look at what's this token price, what's this yield on the token price, because um there's this underlying property, and that's what gives value to it. And I feel like it seems like there's a lot of this mispricing going on. Now, obviously, this isn't one that's any good for us, right? Like we're not helped by um I think when this came out at $50, this is a deal that would have been exciting for me. It has a good yield. Maybe you're paying a little bit too much for the property, but not terribly so. And then obviously, investors have bought it up chasing this yield, and you would have gotten a good return on it. Buying it for $70 for me it would just not be something that's interesting at all. You're getting a decent return, but these are achievable returns elsewhere. Um, but these returns are just your yield, and if you liquidated, you'd lose at least $20, but probably more. And so, you're betting that it's just never sold. Um, so maybe you're doing okay in the long run if it doesn't so, but there's a real risk of something happening, them stopping using it as a STR. That's a risk in a lot of markets. There's a lot of reasons that I would, you know, I'm always going to look for ones that have a good yield, but I want to know that the underlying property has some real value to it relative to the total tokens. And so this one just seems like way out there for me. Um, so I think that's really as far as I'd go on this one. There were already a couple strikes against it. I told you about the state income tax. I was willing to live with that if it's something I'm going to get a good yield on. Looks like we're paying a huge premium to the actual price value of the property. Um, Even though I think it looks like he's doing a really good job running it as an Airbnb. I think you have the risk of, if you had a third party manager come in and take that over, are they going to be able to operate it as well? I know, you know, maybe so. I mean, I don't know how robust the third party management ecosystem is in Albany, and that's something I'd want to look at a little bit. Does have a growing population, that we had that going for it. But to me, one of the things that I think is great about this tool is it's going to give you some diversification. It's going to give you an ability to, when I say this tool, I mean Lofty in general. You know, you can buy, diversify, $50 at a time. By the way, figure I mentioned again, if you are new to Lofty and you want to get that $50 free token, I'm going to have a link in the description so you can get that. There's no catch to that. You don't have to put money on or anything. You can actually just sign up and get a free $50 token. If you put money in afterwards, that's awesome. But it's not required in order to do that. Obviously, it's something I think is worth putting some money into, but it is at the moment. Um, it's still pretty speculative, right? Like I'm not even going to really get into the financials on here. I think just from a valuation perspective, I'm going to say no to this particular property. Um, my guess, I was going to do this other one next, but maybe not. But so my guess is that we're going to see that in a lot of these higher yielding ones. But we'll see. I'll pick out another one for next time. Like I said, I think that the reason I'm doing these, I think there's a lot of people that are buying these tokens without really trying to understand the real estate itself, and what's the value proposition of the token beyond just the rent I'm getting and the $50 I paid. Obviously, the yield on this token is still really strong. Excuse me. Um, but in the event of liquidating the property, you're losing a big chunk, and so then that in the long run, you don't want to just look at your yield. You want to look at or just look at your cash flow yield, right? You want to look at your total returns. And if at some point you're hit with a big loss, and it could be, $20 out of 70 is what we have there. I don't know. My mental math is not great today, so I'm just gonna do the calculator. Yeah, I mean, if you hit with an almost 30% loss, if that happens anytime soon, you're in a lot of trouble. And now, it's perfectly possible that Homes.com and Zillow are both wrong. That also he bought it at a really big discount to what it should be, and that that 500K plus price is actually reasonable if you sold it today. Because there's just so many other options. I'm just going to move on and find a different one anyway. Um, but it is something, I'm not saying that there's no chance that this could work for somebody. It doesn't make sense for me. And that's, one of the things, all of these videos, I'm going to tell you the reasons that I would buy or wouldn't buy some of these tokens and whether or not I do buy some. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right move for you. So you definitely want to do your own due diligence. I just want to share, some of the things that I look at, some of the tools. Um, if you're watching this and you're on Lofty and you're thinking about buying another property or tokens in another property, and you want to, send me a specific one to talk about, I'd love that. If not, I'm just going to pick out another random one to talk about next time. I'm going to do this, I think, quite a bit until maybe it just gets old, because I think there are a lot of interesting options. There are a lot of things to think about. Plenty that we didn't get into on this one. I think some of the initial steps are going to look the same on every single one. But I think a lot of different things could come up depending on, what market it's in, what kind of property it is. So hopefully I've got a lot of info to share. Um, I think that's going to be it for today, though. I think that I told you all that I want to about that one. I think it's a really easy no for me, just from a valuation perspective. But it's one I'll definitely keep my eye on. If those tokens, um, if they stay at that price for a long time, to where I think real estate values might have moved up. I mean, that'd be one reason that it could be interesting. Or if they go down, that could be as well. My kid just walked in, so I am gonna let you go for now. I'll see you next time.